I was leader of the team for about a week. My specialty was the quarterback sneak. I was acting a cack, my bag was packed when I got the word in the form of a bird.
Welcome to the Married with Picks podcast, season 3, episode 11, week 11. Was that better inflection, dear?
It's good.
Thank you. All right. So if you're watching, remember, like us, subscribe on YouTube. All right. So week 11, we have 4 teams on bye this week. Were you going to say something there?
No.
Okay. The Jags, the Dolphins, the Seahawks, and the Bucks. So first game up is the Carolina Panthers at the Baltimore Ravens. It's opened and is at -13 in favor of the Ravens. So we'll have Baker Mayfield back at quarterback for the Panthers. So obviously when he played for Cleveland, he was in the same division as the Ravens. So I went back and looked at what happens in those games. Last year they split with each team winning one. In 2020, the Ravens won both games. One was a shootout, 47-42, and the other was a blowout, 38-6. So I think it's a lot of points. We have the Ravens coming off the bye, but I mean, that's just a lot of points. So we've seen Baker Mayfield come in a couple of these Panthers games when it got out of hand and throw some touchdowns, bring them back into it. So I'm not saying the Ravens don't win. I'm not saying maybe they don't get out to a lead, but I could see a garbage time cover on this.
Yeah, I like the way Carolina's playing. I just think it's way too many points, especially for the Ravens. The Ravens probably shouldn't be favored by 13 on anyone. It's not saying that they can't cover there, but I could easily see like a game that's handled by the Ravens, but Baker Mayfield keeps it within 13, maybe a late backdoor touchdown to cover. But I think this is a 10-point game, 7-point game. I do expect Baltimore to win, but I would take the points in Carolina.
Great. I thought there was an echo in here for a minute.
Yeah, they're agreeing with each other.
Okay. All right. So we're both on the Panthers there, as ugly as that is.
The reality is, that's the side I like, but it's not one of my favorite plays of the day,
All right. So next game is the Philadelphia Eagles traveling to Indianapolis to take on the Jeff Saturday Colts on Sunday. So Philly obviously dealt its first loss last week by is it Tyler or Taylor Heineke? So obviously Eagles haven't looked great the last couple weeks. They lost last week to Washington and they struggled a little bit with the Texans early in that game. It was kind of a back and forth and finally pulled ahead late. And I asked you the other day, like, what's the difference? And you mentioned Jordan Davis. And I guess he's out. He's on IR, right? So he's not coming back. They signed.
He's coming back, but you got to sit out 4 months or 4 games if you go on the IR. So he'll definitely be back before the season ends.
Okay. So they signed, and I don't know how you say his first name, Sue. We'll just call him Sue.
Dominica.
Yeah. So, but will he even play in this game?
I doubt it. He's coming off the couch, so I'm not really sure, but I'm fairly certain he's not playing. But I haven't heard definitive whether he was playing or not. But the Eagles signed 2 tackles to help them against the run that won't be there, this week, most likely. And even if they are, they're not going to play that much.
So I guess I worry that the script this week could follow the script of last week that Washington took, which is kind of run the ball, keep the Eagles off the field. And obviously they have Jonathan Taylor, who came back to life a little bit last week. In that game, Saturday got his first win. So I certainly hope that the Eagles win this game. The line opened at -10 in favor of the Eagles. It's down to -7. So is there a lot of hype behind Jeff Saturday here? I don't know. But the Colts have not had a good offensive line. The Eagles do have a good defensive line. So I certainly think that the Eagles can win this game. And I hope to God that they do, because I don't feel like listening to the Jeff Saturday hype anymore.
I don't think it's that much hype. I think the line's going down because it's a week-to-week league. That the bettors, have a short memory, so they're looking at just last week. Eagles' performance against Washington, and then Indianapolis, beat the Colts or beat the the Raiders. So I think it's coming down to 7. You're looking at an injury to Goddard on the Eagles side, so who knows how much that's going to impact them. Goddard was one of the rare tight ends in the league that doesn't just have a specialty of pass catching or blocking. He's pretty good at both. So that's going to hurt the Eagles a little bit, but they have plenty of weapons. And the bottom line is, against Washington, they got a lot of breaks the Commanders did to win that game. Some bad calls or non-calls for the refs that had impact on the score to the game. The Eagles, I believe, probably had the worst coached game of the year for them, both on offense and on defense. On offense, they didn't run the ball at all. I think they ran the ball like 6 times in the first half. And on defense, they were playing zone and about 10, 15 yards off these receivers. So guys like McLaren were just running wide open. They're not going to play that way on defense this week against the Colts.
I don't know. Do you worry about the cornerbacks in this matchup? Because, if you're playing 10 feet off of Terry McLaurin, are you worried about freaking Paris Campbell or whoever else they got there?
I don't think they're going to play that far off against the Colts. I think they'll play a little tighter. Oh, if I'm worried about anything, I'm worried about the run up the middle because of Jonathan Taylor. But at the end of the day, is there reasons for concern? Yes, but I think this is going to be a game where you have to remember Nick Sirianni is coming back to Indy, where he was the coach. Okay. They just fired Frank Reich, who was his mentor, and pretty much catapulted him into a position to get the head coaching job with the Eagles based on his familiarity with Howie and Jeff Lurie and the word that Frank Reich gave to them to vouch for Nick Sirianni when he came over and got his first head coaching opportunity at the beginning of last year. So anyway, point is, Nick Sirianni is going to want to come in here and stick it to Irsay. So with that, I think it's the main motivation. I think they're going to go smash the Colts on Sunday.
I feel like Frank Reich is really getting a raw deal out of this.
Oh, for sure.
Because he gets fired, he's forced to start Ellinger, and then Saturday comes in, puts Ryan back in, and they look a lot better. Well, no shit.
Let me ask you this, okay? The way my mind works is, okay, things aren't working with Matt Ryan and you're forced to go to Ellinger when you have Nick Foles on your bench, who a couple of years ago teamed up with Frank Reich to win the Super Bowl. Oh, my
God, I'm so tired.
So I'm not saying that, I'm not saying that they would have won the Super Bowl. They would have even made the playoffs. But how can you not try that combo and the run-pass option? The run-pass option, if they were to run that same offense that they implemented when Frank Reich was the offensive coordinator with the Eagles and Foles was the quarterback, think about Nick Foles with the running back and the receiver that they have in Indy.
I feel like everything is very confused in Indy. Like, what's their goal? Like, is it this season? Is it the future? Because I can certainly say that Nick Foles is not the future. If you want to explore what the future is, that's fine. But you can't have it.
He's not the future, but Ellinger's not the future. I can tell you that for damn sure. He's a 6th-round pick out of Texas.
And that's fine if they gave him a shot, but the whole way it went down, like he's our starter for the rest of the season, but he's not.
Yeah, I agree. It's just bizarre. I'm agreeing with you. But and I'm going a step further to say, before you even would have fired Frank, you should have gave this opportunity with him and Nick. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't make any sense why he would pull the trigger on the gun and fire Reich this soon in the season. So, I think Irsay might have, I think he might be drinking too much. I don't know what's going on with him. He just seems like he hates the world.
Well, he's drinking with his buddy Jeff Saturday, so I guess it's all working out for them. I don't know.
Yeah, I really hope the Eagles go and smash them.
Let's move on. All right, so we're both on the Eagles there. All right, so next game up is the Washington Commanders at the Houston Texans. Open at -2.5 in favor of Washington. It's up to -3. Texans are 1-7 on the season. I guess I worry a little bit about Washington coming into this game after having won their Super Bowl last week, taking down the Eagles in a division game on Monday night. But I don't have a whole lot to say about this game. I like Taylor Heineke or Taylor Heineke.
It's Taylor.
No, I think it's
Taylor Heineke.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Taylor.
I like him. And I mean, given the fact that the Texans are 1-7.
It's like Taylor Hawkins, the drummer from the Foo Fighters.
Rest in peace. Is he the one that died?
He is.
Okay,
He's the
good.
one.
I'm going with Washington.
All right, I'm going the other way. I like Houston. I think you started to go down a path where I was surprised and thought you were going to take Houston based off the fact that Washington is coming off that big Monday night win. This to me looks like the Monday night letdown, the hangover. They go on the road again, like last week. Houston has been close in a couple of these games. They're the road or the home dog. I like the home dog here. 80% of the action is on Washington. So with all those things being said, I look for a Monday night letdown. Coming off that Eagles win, I'll take Houston plus 3 points.
Did they actually flew from Washington to Philadelphia?
Did they?
Well, there was footage of Taylor Heineke on the plane on the way back after the game.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, wouldn't you just take a bus?
depends on how much money you have.
Well, it's a team. It was like the team
Well,
plane.
this shows you typically they would take the bus, but
Huh,
I
interesting.
think that now with the money that they're generating, you could. I don't know how long the flight to DC is. I think it's about 30 minutes
I don't know.
compared to a 2.5 hour drive.
All right, that was just an aside. I just thought that was interesting. Anyway, all right, so we're on opposite sides of this one. Next game is the New York Jets at the New England Patriots, opened at -5.5 in favor of the Patriots, down to -3.5 in favor of the Patriots. So we have a lot of division rematches this week, and this is one of them. These teams played back in week 8. Patriots won that game 22-17. Zach Wilson had 3 interceptions. And I guess a lot of what I have to say is the same as what I said before. Jets have not beat the Patriots since 2015. It feels like the public is on the Jets, given their record, and the fact that that was not necessarily expected. But bottom line is it's going to come down to Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson versus Bill Belichick after a bye week. I got to take the Patriots. I would prefer it down to 3, which it might get there. So,
Well, Patriots are sitting here at the bottom of the AFC East at 5-4, which is unfamiliar territory for Belichick. The Bills, the Jets, 6-3, a game in front of them. 2 games ahead are the Miami Dolphins. So they win this game. I think this is, again, an ebb and flow schedule part of the season where, they'll get to 5-5, beat New York down to 6-4. I'm a little surprised at this line. I mean, I know the Jets have been hot and they're playing well. But New England went to New York just 2 weeks ago, right? And beat them.
week 8.
Was it week 8? Yeah.
3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago. So
Well, the line was 3 then.
yeah, but it was in New York.
Right.
So, the line's 3.5? I think it will probably get down to 3. Damian Harris comes back this week. So
Nah, he's
not going to start, but Stevenson will start, but he is going to get some carries. And it just shows me that they have a healthy, strong running game, which is what they need to beat the Jets. I'm going to take the Patriots here, definitely.
Okay.
This is a no-brainer for me. I know this could be for some people struggling. To me, I really like the Patriots.
I like the Patriots.
All right.
I feel a little less confident in this than I did in week 8, but
I felt really strong about that game too.
Yeah.
And that game wasn't as close as a score. I think it was about a 14-point game with about 2 minutes left, and they got a backdoor touchdown.
I guess it depends who you ask, because apparently there was a call in that game that kind of towards the end, I forget what the specifics of it were, but it took a Mac Jones interception off the board. So, but that's football.
Yes,
it happens in all these games.
Spread.
All right. Next game is the Detroit Lions at the New York Jets, opened at -4.5 in favor of the Giants. It's at -3. So Giants are 7-2 on the season, overachieving, obviously. Lions have actually won 2 games in a row, putting them at 3-7. Both teams seem to play a lot of close
3
games.
and 6.
3 and 6. So my initial thoughts, I think the Giants win this game. I think they're the better team, but they don't blow teams out. The Lions seem to always be in these 1-score games where they could win and they don't win. So I thought you should probably take the points. And I feel like I was a big fan of the Lions early on. I was always taking the Lions. And anytime I don't take the Lions cover or they actually win like they did last week. So I think the Giants win, but I feel like you got to take the points. But I feel like a lot of the games the Lions have played against bad defenses where you get that back and forth, like 30-30 type score like last week. I don't think this is going to be that type of game. I think the Giants have a better defense. But, I mean, the Giants kind of struggled with the Texans last week. I mean, there were a lot of chances for the Texans in that game that they just didn't come through on. So I'm kind of back and forth. I definitely think the Giants win, but I think you got to take the points. What do you think?
It's a tough situation because then you're backing yourself into a 1 or a 2 point loss by the Lions. So I like the Giants. I think this is a look ahead game for Detroit to Thanksgiving. Every year they play in Thanksgiving, and I think they're going to struggle.
They play the Bills on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, so they're going to be pumped up to play the Bills, give them their best shot. I think this is a tough game for them. G-Men are 5-1 in their last 6 against the spread. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games played in November. I just like the Giants. I feel like it's similar to last week.
I guess I like the Giants too, but do you like them as a favorite? Like a 3-point favorite?
Yeah, I liked them last week. I just think this feels similar, where you have a tough, a not so good team coming in, playing in the Meadowlands. And I think that at minimal, I think it's played exactly like last week's game. I mean, I think the Giants are probably going to win by 3. So this could be a push. The line's sitting at 3 right now. But I think that's like the worst case scenario. They might struggle with Detroit a little bit. Detroit's been playing pretty much everybody tough. But I think they probably get a late field goal or, touchdown to cover.
Well, what's the weather going to be there?
I don't have the weather report in front of me, dear. Okay. Sorry.
Well, I mean, we haven't gotten to the Buffalo game yet, and I guess that's not necessarily comparable, but it's the same state.
Just throw out a weather question. That's something you should be prepared for. You don't just kind of on a hope and a whim hope I have a weather report for New York.
Well, I imagine it's going to be cold if nothing else.
Yeah, I believe it's
right. It's cold here. It's cold in Buffalo. It's cold in the whole Northeast corridor at this point.
There's 6 foot of snow.
Well, yeah,
in Buffalo
they're not
right
going to
now.
have 6 feet of snow in here.
Well, they're moving that game, but we'll get to that soon.
Yes, we'll get there. We're not there yet.
I don't want to steal your thunder, dear. I'm sure you have copious notes on that one.
All right, so I'm torn on that game. I don't even have a pick, I guess.
Giants. Take the Giants.
I'm going to throw it in a teaser. All right, next game is the Los Angeles Rams at the New Orleans Saints. Open at -1 in favor of the Saints. It's up to -3. So we have the Rams at 3-6 on the season, Saints at 3-7 on the season. Sounds like the Rams will have Matt Stafford back at quarterback, but they have lost Cooper Kupp at least for the next 4 games. He was effectively their entire offense. LA's strength is their defensive line and their run defense, which doesn't match up well to the Saints and Andy Dalton. But you got to wonder, what's Aaron Donald's motivation at this point? He's played in the league quite a few years. There was some question of whether he would retire after they won the Super Bowl. And I'm sure at this point, he's sitting there wishing he had. I mean, it's a lost season for them at this point. So I don't know if that's necessarily something to worry about. My gut says take the Saints, but it just feels dirty to take the Saints as a 3-point favorite. What are your thoughts on this game, Steve?
Oh, I had a pretty strong opinion, but first, do you know what the weather report is like?
It's a dome.
Oh, okay.
Weather is not a concern as long as they can get to the stadium.
Weather report. Jesus Christ. Well, as of 6 p.m. Eastern time today, which is Friday, Matthew Stafford is cleared to play. He's cleared the concussion protocol. So I expect him back in the game. I think that the Rams still have enough heart they're not giving up on the season.
Do you think?
Again, they're 3-point dogs going into New Orleans. I'm not impressed with the quarterback playing in New Orleans. And I think if you put a solid defense on the field against them, then Andy Dalton's going to throw a lot of interceptions. You can't win if you lose the turnover battle in this one. So I'm going to take the Rams.
Well, I think Matt Stafford's thrown quite a few picks this year, too. And look who he's going to be throwing to now.
So do you like the Saints?
I already said that. Do you listen to what I say?
You want to bet on this one?
No, I don't.
Why not?
Because it's the Los Angeles Rams at the New Orleans
That's my
Saints.
point. It's the Saints. They suck. You're going to take them, the 3-point favorites? I'm not taking the Saints 3-point favorites
You're the
against
jinx.
anybody.
If I bet you, it changes. It changes
Let me
the
just tell
destiny
you, everybody, all three people that are listening to this podcast, take the Rams. This is a lock. Please bet me. Lock. I said lock. Stone cold, mortal lock on this one. $20 holler. Come on.
Oh, whatever.
Oh, whatever. You see that? Boom. Binding.
All right.
Take the Rams.
Next game. You probably shouldn't put your money on this game at all.
It's a 3-point game.
And if you do, put $20.
Saints will win by 3.
All right. Next game.
Push.
Cleveland Browns at the Well, it's not at the Buffalo Bills. So, all right. It opened at -6 in favor of Buffalo. It's at -7.5 right now. This game was moved to Detroit. So
why was the game moved to Detroit?
Because they're expecting 6 feet of snow. And it was funny because I saw it on Facebook and I just saw the 6 and like where we live, like if you get 6 something of snow, it's 6 inches. So I was like 6 inches of snow. And like, this is like a concern for the NFL.
I know. Did you see any of the pictures that came in?
And then I realized it was 6 feet of snow.
Did you see pictures of Buffalo Stadium?
It made much more sense at that point. No, I
it's
didn't.
already snowing there. There's pictures that were circulating today that look like at least 4 feet had already landed.
I heard that they might not even actually make it out.
Yeah, they had
of Buffalo.
They had forgotten to get on the planes to get out of town, so it had already started snowing by the time that they were trying to leave. But I think reports are they got out of town.
Did they?
Yeah, but it was a tough one.
Okay, all right.
It was a tough and wild takeoff.
Well, because some players were trying to get to the airport and like couldn't get there.
Oh my god!
And then you have the plane can't take off in certain snow. I guess. I don't know. I would love to have 6 feet of snow. That's all I know.
Certain snow they can't take off on. Like, what's the differences in snow? That
like 4 feet of snow.
Like, what's take-offable snow versus non-take-offable snow?
Well, I guess it all depends on how quick they're clearing that runway. But
it's not like the snow, different kind of snow. It's the amount of snow that lands. You're saying?
I have no idea.
Versus like wet. There's different kinds of snow. Like there's snow that you can like pack the snow. I imagine
in Buffalo,
make good snowmen or snowballs to have snowball fights.
I imagine
and then there's like the flaky stuff that you put as long as you can squeeze it as much as you want, and it just won't pack. It's just powder.
But I imagine
powder's the correct term.
I imagine in Buffalo they get like snow, like wet.
Powder's only good for skiing.
Heavy snow. But I don't know. I'm not a meteorologist.
Lake effect snow. That's actually called lake effect snow.
So it's wet,
there.
Right?
I'm sure it is wet. The crazy thing about Buffalo is, I've been up there a bunch of times, that the city of Buffalo, because this lake effect snow, the city of Buffalo could be split in half, where half the city doesn't get any snow whatsoever. They could get like an inch or two. Mm-hmm. And then the other half of Buffalo gets 3 or 4 feet. It's the craziest thing.
Well, I heard them talking about that on the radio about like some other game that's taking place, and because it's at a different stadium, which is in a different location. Oh, it's like a totally different story.
Oh, that was probably, I didn't hear that, but that's probably the University of Buffalo is playing on Saturday.
Yeah, that was a Saturday thing. All right. Anyway,
I've been up past there too.
All right. So as long as they got on the plane. As long as Josh Allen's on the plane.
Yeah, back to this game. You got to pick? What's going on? And he's
going to Detroit. I feel like this game is going to take a very similar script to last week, right? Okay, so Buffalo, 6-3 at this point in the season. I mean, who would have thought Buffalo would have been 6-3? Where are they at in the standings? They're not in first place.
No, they're actually tied for second.
Okay. So
with the New York Jets.
I mean, that game last week was a debacle, an absolute debacle. So
it's very similar to the Eagles game, where it just didn't make any sense. There was just stupid stuff that happened. I wouldn't
say it was similar to the Eagles game.
Yeah, there was a lot of dumb shit that happened in that game.
No. You had two questionable calls, which I'm sorry, but I don't think the roughing the passer call on the end of the game was a bad call. It was the right fucking call. And I don't care. They missed a face mask penalty. That's it. Like Josh Allen,
they missed a two-handed, grab the face mask, rip down the guy's face, and break his shoulder.
If you have to argue that the refs missed a call in a game, like you're just a sore loser. You lost the fucking game. Take it. Like refs miss calls all the time. I mean, nobody's perfect. It shouldn't come down to that.
All right.
You were an 11-point
You want to stick with the
favorite.
Buffalo game here, dear?
So, I mean,
Off on a little tangent there?
game was crazy.
Buffalo?
Yeah, with him fumbling the ball coming out of the end zone and it's a touchdown. I mean, that
It
was
was
just
crazier, but there was crazy shit that happened in both teams. My point is that that good teams lose in football. And if you're going to sit here and look and say, okay, because they lost last week a crazy game, it's going to play out similar to the fucking Cleveland Browns. You're out of your fucking mind.
No, that's not.
The Bills have beat all three teams in the AFC.
No,
The Cleveland Browns have lost all three games they played against the AFC East. To the Pats by 23 points, to the Dolphins by 22 points. Okay? They're going to get their ass kicked again by the Buffalo Bills.
I said last week.
Take the Bills and the points, even if it goes up to 11.
When I said last week, I was talking about the Cleveland Browns last week playing the Miami Dolphins. I was not referring to the Bills game. So what I meant...
Oh, you're saying that Buffalo's going to roll.
What I meant was that it could be a close game early. Cleveland could keep it close like they did, but the Bills are going to pull away just like the Dolphins did. The Bills have
I had you the other way. I thought you were saying this was going to be
firepower.
similar to the Minnesota Buffalo game.
Well, see? You assumed and you took that ball and
So
you
a couple
fucking
of thumbs
ran
out
with it.
got me all riled up, girl.
So I'm going to take the Bills.
Can I have a sip?
No.
You spilled half of it on your sheet. Jesus Christ.
Now I got to be careful because I'm going to be able to read my rating. So I'm going to take the Bills. I would prefer to get it at like 7. I hate the hook, and I'm going to tease them with somebody we're going to get to later. And I feel like that's like the safest bet.
Let's take it straight up. I mean,
well, the hook scares me. The hook always scares me.
No, I mean, I think that they are embarrassed. They think they're a Super Bowl team. They get embarrassed the way they lost last week. And, they're probably pissed off that they got to get on a plane and fly off to Detroit to play Cleveland.
I don't know. If I was them, I'd be glad to play in a dome instead of playing in fucking miserable ass weather.
Yeah, but you got to go on the road. So,
well, now they might have to stay there for a week because they play there on Thursday.
You might as well stay there. What's the rush to get back to Buffalo, to your point?
Well, you might not even be able to. I don't know.
Go Bills.
All right. So we're on the same side there. All right. Next game, Chicago Bears at the Atlanta Falcons, open at -4.5 in favor of the Falcons. It's down to -3. So obviously the Bears have been playing pretty well the last few weeks. They've been putting up a lot of points. They are also allowing a lot of points, specifically on the ground, which is what Atlanta wants to do. I could see it being a high scoring kind of back and forth like the last couple games that the Bears have played, although I don't necessarily think of the Falcons as that team. I would not want to take Atlanta as a favorite. The only thing that has me worried is this is where the money is like significantly split. Like 90% of the money is on the Bears at this point. That's like totally premature. We're only halfway through. So that has me worried. But otherwise, I'm taking the Bears here. And just one other note on this one. This is apparently like where Justin Fields grew up and went to school. So it's kind of like a homecoming, like all his family friends in the stands type thing. What you got?
This is my buck the trend game.
What's the trend? What are you bucking?
The Bears are 10-2 in the last 12 against the spread versus Atlanta. I like Atlanta.
You like Atlanta?
I like Atlanta. I think you take Atlanta.
As a 3-point favorite.
Yeah, Atlanta's lost 2 games in a row. Chicago, everybody's in a love affair with Justin Fields just because he's running the ball. I mean, you can defend this. I think Atlanta will. They've lost 2 in a row. They just got Cordell Patterson back 2 years ago and they haven't won with them. So I think this is definitely a win because of the ebbs and flows of the season. I think people are going to falsely think the Bears are going to win this game. There's a lot of action on the Bears this week. Yeah. You gotta be concerned whenever you see everybody laying up on one side of any NFL game. Your alarm bells have to go off. You should at least prevent yourself from getting crazy if you're going to go Bears. But I'm going to go Atlanta. I trust Atlanta.
You trust Atlanta?
I think that when they play at home, that they are going to handle the Bears. I don't think the Bears are that good. And I don't expect them to play well on the road. And I think it's going to be a little bit of a distraction for Justin Fields coming home to play. A lot of times these quarterbacks, especially these young guys, and remember, he's pretty much a rookie. I mean, he's only, he got drafted last year. He doesn't have much much time at quarterback. Point is, these guys, they come home to play in front of the home crowd, and they want to do really well. And they get really pumped up, a little bit too much energy, a little bit too much hype, and they don't normally perform well. So that for those reasons, that's why I like Atlanta.
All right. You got me worried about that one. So I think the Bears should win this game. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, I just think it's like it's too quick of a love affair for Justin Fields. He's going to throw a clunker out there, and this might be it.
Well, I think we had the misfortune of watching the Falcons last week against the Panthers, and that was just brutal to watch.
Yeah, they didn't look good, but you have to remember that game was on the road. So you're taking a dome team, putting them on the road, not only on the road, but in the front end of a hurricane that's coming up the East Coast, which resulted in rain and winds the entire game. So it wasn't like they couldn't throw the ball or move the ball.
But the Atlanta Falcons want to run the ball. So what's the perfect conditions to say, okay, let's just run the ball?
In a dome.
Okay, but still, like, what do the Chicago Bears want to do? Run the ball.
In a dome. Take Atlanta.
All right. Let's move on.
Don't let me talk you out of your conviction. I mean, I'm not trying to talk you into taking Atlanta.
I was in love.
I'm trying to talk to people listening to this game into an Atlanta because I want to try to make money for people listening.
I was in love with the Bears until I saw the split on the money, 90%. It's a 1 o'clock game, but 90% is a lot.
Man, we're still on the 1 o'clocks?
Yeah. Well, we're getting ready to transition because I have my little notes to remind people.
All right, we're at 4:05.
Wait, I'm not done.
Oh.
Like and subscribe. All right, so 4 o'clock.
Get smart with that.
I got to write it in or I don't remember. Las Vegas Raiders at the Denver Broncos. It opened at and is at -2.5 because nobody gives a flying shit about this game.
This is a too shitty game.
It's a rematch. These teams did play. I didn't write down which week it was, but earlier in the season, the Raiders won that matchup 32-23. They actually have won 5 straight against the Broncos. I don't think that means anything because these are not
Week
really
4.
the same teams. That was the most points that have been put up against the Broncos this season. Which is maybe a feather they can put in their cap. But Broncos aren't exactly blowing other teams out. They only put up 10 points last week against the Titans. So, I mean, as much as I hate to say it, if I put any money on this game, I got to take the Raiders.
What? Yeah, I like the Broncos on this one. I mean, this is revenge. This is a division revenge game. It's as simple as that. They lost 32-23. It was on the road. That's why they struggled and gave up 32 points. Like you said, it was the worst defensive performance of the season for the Broncos. I think they'll look for to make amends on that and play a very strong defensive-minded game here. The blueprint is out on how to beat the Raiders. It's pretty much let them make mistakes. So I'm going to take Denver Broncos here. I think they're due for a win. -2.5. It looks like a 3-point win.
You want to take the Denver Broncos as a 2.5 point favorite?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Russell Wilson is in the huddle calling plays from his days in Seattle.
See, I think it's a really underrated move that they got Chase Edmonds, and I know they didn't work him into the offense too much last week, but I'm hoping to see that they give him the ball a little bit more, and I think he is a difference maker. I think that's the running back that they need. I don't like the running backs that they're using right now. They have Latavius Murray. They have Melvin Gordon III. He's old and shot. So I think it's a great move that they just kind of almost got thrown in Chase Edmonds because Miami didn't want him anymore. And I think they can utilize him in this offense. So we'll see how they utilize him going forward. This will be the second week that they have him. So hopefully they've exposed him a little bit more to the playbook and have him more incorporated into the game plan itself. I'm going to take the Broncos here.
Chase Edmonds, difference maker.
Listen, I know they're 2.5 point favorites, but how can you like the Raiders on the road? How can you like the Raiders in general, but on the road?
Well, the bottom line is
in a division matchup.
Denver put up 10 points last week.
Yeah,
against the Titans, who are coming off the tough game against the Chiefs, who they have a good run defense, but their secondary is suspect.
I like it when you're drinking vodka.
And they can only put up 10 points.
The inflection in your voice is much better.
You didn't see the reports about Russell Wilson in the huddle calling Seattle plays, and the guy's like, they don't even know what he's saying. Like, that's not good.
He's calling Seattle.
And if you want to talk about a coaching like matchup, then we got Josh McDaniels, who, he doesn't do well as a head coach. Go back to New England. But you got Nate Hackett, like, as the Broncos coach. So who wins that matchup?
Other than the Carolina Panthers, do you know the only other NFL team in the league this year that hasn't won a game on the road?
Who?
The Las Vegas Raiders.
How much vodka have you been drinking?
Oakland Raiders. No, the Raiders haven't won on the road yet. They're not going to start this week. I like the Broncos.
Nah,
revenge.
I really want to shake your hand on this one, but it's the Raiders.
Let's do it. Come on, this will be the.
We're betting all the shit shows.
Trash bowl.
The trash bowl
game. All right, there's two. That's too good.
God. All right. So the next game actually is the game of the week. The Dallas Cowboys at the Minnesota Vikings. It opened at -2.5 in favor of the Cowboys. It's down to -1.5 in favor of the Cowboys. So we have the 8-2. Is it 8-2?
Who?
8-1. Sorry, Minnesota Vikings. As a home dog to the Dallas Cowboys. So last week, the Vikings came from behind to take down the Bills. Meanwhile, the Cowboys blew their lead and lost to the Packers. I do have to mention that I thought all the Packers hype this week was funny going into the Titans game. Everybody thought that Aaron Rodgers was back, and the Titans proved otherwise. So I've been back and forth on this game as well. My initial thoughts was the Vikings, but I think when you delve into it a little more, still premature, dear. I think that the Vikings have gotten.
Rollicking song, he sweeps along.
What is this?
That's the Raiders music.
Oh God!
Straight round and upside down and laugh.
No, go for it. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to break your concentration. Keep going. You're doing good.
Now I totally lost my train of thought. I feel like the Vikings have been on the right side of variance, and the Cowboys maybe were on the wrong side last week.
Come on, let's go. Talk behind the music. This is great.
So you're on the Broncos, which are playing the theme music for the Raiders. Thank you. So I mean, I was originally on the Vikings. I shifted over to the Cowboys, and I feel pretty good about it.
Look, I was all over Green. I liked Green Bay last week, and
did you like Green Bay last week?
I don't know what I said on the podcast, but I know I got it. I like Green Bay, and just because I think everybody's overrating Dallas and giving them too many points. Now they're coming into Minnesota as a favorite. I mean, come on, they should be probably a 3-point dog, maybe 2.5-point dog.
They're America's team.
I'll take the home dog here away. I mean, I don't even want to take Minnesota. I mean, they're 8-1.
Hey, look,
they're due for another loss, right?
Kirk Cousins is due for a clunker.
And typically, you get in that position.
Overdue.
Based off the way they won last week, that they would come into a letdown. But, Dallas sucks. I mean, they're not that good. They're going to go on the road. They're favored to Minnesota. I just think, it might be a scrappy game. Minnesota's been pulling it out. I think they've been down in every game that they've played and have come back. Probably a lot of the same here against the Dallas Cowboys.
But they played a lot of bad teams, bad quarterbacks.
The biggest problem for Dallas is going to be that Zeke's coming back. So now they're going to have to split carries because they feel like they have to put Zeke in. They're better off if he's not suited up and they can just work Pollard the ball the whole time. So that's going to hurt them as well. But I like Minnesota in this one. Obviously they're 7-0. Straight up in their last 7 games.
I think they're 4-0 at home.
Yeah. So since they're a dog here, they're getting points. All they got to do is win the game. So I think they keep rolling because honestly, not as much as I love the Vikings here, because they are due for a loss. Maybe that comes next week.
I mean, they've gotten lucky in both
Dallas
the last games because the game prior where they played Washington, Taylor Heineke threw a pick towards the end there that put them on top. And then last week they got lucky on a few occasions. So I don't know. I'm going to go with the Cowboys there.
The Cowboys, okay, we're split there. The next game is the Cincinnati Bengals. They head to Pittsburgh, division matchup, the AFC Central. And the Cincinnati Bengals are rolling into Pittsburgh as a 3.5-point favorite. What do you
division
like here,
game
Jack?
Rematch of week 1. Pittsburgh won that game 23-20 in overtime.
It was a shocker.
It was a shocker. And I think
Mitch Trubisky.
Pittsburgh, it was Mitch Trubisky. Pittsburgh went up early. The Bengals kind of came back towards the end to tie it up and then ultimately lost in overtime. TJ Watt was the difference maker in that game. He came back last week, so he will be there this week. Bengals are coming off a bye. Last week, the Bengals did win both matchups against the Steelers. So I'm a little torn on this one. So I would say Pittsburgh, but I don't trust Pickett at quarterback. So I think maybe the Bengals can do enough off the bye to get the win. They need a win, too, to stay relevant at this point.
Yeah. I like Cincinnati here. Bengals, like you said, lost the home opener 23-20. I think it's another revenge game. They're 6-1 in their last 7 against the spread. I think the Bengals continue to gain momentum. I'm really you see that the team that loses the Super Bowl typically doesn't make it back to next year, or they struggle to make it back to the playoffs. Cincinnati started to look like that team in the beginning of the season. But you have to remember that Burrow is very young. He's only a couple years in, and a lot of their skill players are young. Joe Mixon is a veteran, and he's probably in his 5th year. So I really like since they're almost too young to know any better. Now they're starting to play a lot better. I think that they're going to continue to get better as the season progresses and make a strong run to win this division. I expect them to catch Baltimore by the time this thing's all said and done. And I think this is going to be fairly easy roll to victory for the Bengals.
What's the weather going to be like in Pittsburgh? Do you know?
There's no dome there. It's going to be cold.
All right.
It'll be cold, dear.
All right. So moving into prime time, we have the Kansas City Chiefs at the Los Angeles Chargers. Open at -5.5 in favor of the Chiefs. It's down to -4.5. This is also a rematch of a division matchup. These teams played back in week 2. Chiefs won that game 27-24. Since Justin Herbert took over at quarterback for the Chargers, these teams have split each season. Justin Herbert should have Mike Williams, and so they say today. Keenan Allen's hamstring is feeling better. So
what? No way. There's no way in hell that guy plays.
Well, the question
every week is week to week. It's like he might play at game time, and he doesn't play.
By this point, every other week he's been ruled out. So this is progress, serious progress.
So he might be ready to go in 3 weeks from now.
Question is, how long will he be on the field? He's like a Julio Jones, like one catch and he's going to go off the field.
Julio's looking strong the last game or two.
Well, I think
he's due for an injury.
I don't think he's questionable yet, so that's good. He made it through a whole NFL game.
It's outstanding.
All right, so I'm going to take the points. Take the Chargers.
I like the Chargers here too. They're the home dog again. I'm going to play all the home dogs this week. The Chiefs are 1-4 in the last 5 versus the Chargers, so I'll stick with the Chiefs. I don't have a lot more else to say. I know that. There's the third, Josh Palmer, the third receiver is healthy. He's going to play. If you get Josh Allen back in there, that's all the better. The more that these guys, Keenan Allen, the more that these guys get healthy.
We'll just call him Hammy from now on.
We get Mike Williams back in there. I look for the Chargers to make a strong run to the playoffs as well. They started this week against the Chiefs.
All right. So final game is the Monday night game. The San Francisco 49ers are taking on the Arizona Cardinals in Mexico City. So this is a division game as well. This is the first meeting of these teams this year. So I heard this evening that San Francisco has been practicing in somewhere in Colorado to prepare because I think the elevation in Mexico City is worse than the elevation in Denver. It's pretty high up there. I think the Kyler Murray status is still unclear. It's too early to get much from the injury reports, but the Cardinals do have a lot of players on the injury report. Their safety, Budda Baker, Zach Ertz's out. I don't know specifics, but I think he was carted off.
He's done for the season. He's on the IR.
Okay. Cornerback Byron Murphy, offensive lineman Max Garcia, and DJ Humphreys. So have to watch out for that because Kyler Murray has been playing without a lot of the offensive line. If they have to face San Francisco in that condition, it could be not good. I like the 49ers a lot here, although I was surprised because Kyle Shanahan has owned Sean McVay. Sean McVay has owned Cliff Kingsbury, but yet Sean McVay versus Cliff Kingsbury are 3-3 since Kyler Murray came into the league. That kind of surprised me. I don't, and especially after last week, you can't trust Kyle Shanahan with these big spreads because he gets scared in the end of games. They had the chance to cover last week, and he was too scared to score a touchdown.
Too scared.
Yeah, I mean, they could have scored a touchdown. They're winning by 3 points. They have a chance. They're first and goal. They have a chance to score a touchdown and go up by 10, and instead they run 4 plays, kick a field goal to go up by 6, and give the ball back. It made no sense. He's scared. He plays scared. So I don't trust him with an 8.5 point spread, but I would definitely put this in a teaser and feel pretty comfortable. The money is also surprisingly on the Cardinals in this. So that always works to your advantage on a Monday night.
Well, it's not that surprising because San Fran is 1-7-1 in their last 9 against the spread versus Arizona.
Kyle Shanahan's scared.
So Arizona has, had their number recently. I say recently in the last 9 games. So it's going back over 4.5 seasons. I like Arizona here. I like Arizona a lot. I think to all the things that you said, I agree with. I think it's way too many points of just kind of busting your stones a little bit. He definitely does not play well to a big cover, a big line. So I'm going to take Arizona here for sure. I think Monday night, those fans in Arizona will be ripping and ready to go.
They're not going to be in Arizona. They're in Mexico City.
I'm sorry, in Mexico City.
Playing at Elevation. And do you know where the Cardinals are practicing this week?
I can't remember what you said.
No, I said where San Francisco is practicing this week, but the Cardinals are practicing in Arizona.
Oh, okay. Well, it's pretty hot and humid there. So
but they're not prepped for Elevation.
Heat. But it's a dry heat, so it's probably not the same. I like Arizona, though. I like Arizona.
I would bet you if it wasn't 8.5.
Awesome. So I just want to throw out real quick, that's the last game that we have, but the 4, I'm telling you right now, I really love, I'm not saying I like every home dog this week. There's a couple, I think 2 or 3. The Colts I'm going to stay away from, and there's one other one, Pittsburgh. But the 4 teams that are home dogs that I love are Arizona, like we just mentioned.
But they're not really home dogs.
Los Angeles Chargers, the Houston Texans, it counts as a home game, and the Minnesota Vikings.
Okay. All right. Remember, if you're still watching, like us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube.
Still there.
That'll do it
Don't
for us.
forget the buck the trend is the Falcons. That's a good one too. But the biggest one,
buck the trend every
go
week.
Arizona.
Choose a different team.
Mexico City.
All right. So wait, before we go,
they're not my buck the trend every week.
Yeah, they were a lot. Before we go, so
I'm gonna buck your trend.
So next week is next week is Thanksgiving. So I guess
gobble. You see my shirt?
Jive turkey.
Jive turkey.
We normally just skip the Thanksgiving games and do the normal podcast on Friday. So we'll see you next Friday.
We may post on the Facebook page the winners for Thursday.
All right. Peace out.